Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be back with you once again, wherever you are watching us from. We are thankful that you have chosen to tune in to the program and hoping you enjoy the next 45 minutes to an hour of race talk here. This show being brought to you by Radical Race Gear. If you want to be a champion, you first ought to look like a champion. From driver gear to sublimated crew shirts to carpets for your trailer and even customized pop-up 10x10 tents with sponsor logos and such, we can make your brand look professional. RadicalRaceGear.com is the site, and Butch Lamb and I go back to middle school together, so I trust him implicitly. He does fantastic work. Check him out. Okay, we have a very special guest on this show. I'm going to call him a co-host for tonight because that's what he was for a long time. He and I was either doing his show as a co-host or the other way around. We did a couple shows a week. Jacob Seelman, who now is from Raceface Digital Media. Raceface Digital is back. Good to be back with you, Jacob. Good to have you on the Tom Baker Show, and it's going to be fun to talk racing with you. We're going to start with NASCAR because you are fresh off a trip to Atlanta, which I understand was fairly hot, actually. This time
yes, it was.
I want to know, first of all, Chase Elliott gets the win, of course, and so, you know, the siren eventually rings in Dawsonville, but you know, give me your thoughts on Atlanta in a big picture sense and the racing there. And I mean, because I actually thought that the nighttime Atlanta is even more fun than the daytime Atlanta, and I think it almost has to be that way in July. But give me your thoughts.
Look at you crawling in my head and taking a few words right out of where I was going with all this. We're off to a rousing start, aren't we?
I won't spend too long there, I promise.
Yeah, it's a little scary in there, as we both know. To be quite frank, number one, my ears are still ringing, and not from the siren. My ears are ringing from the fact that in 13 years of at-track coverage, out of all the NASCAR races that I can remember going to, this crowd, when Chase Elliott took the checkered flag and parked on the front straightaway for his burnouts at what is now Echo Park Speedway, the former Atlanta Motor Speedway, on Saturday night, was unbelievably loud. Like, I can't even describe to you, almost deafening, the crowd noise when he got out of that race car. Like I said, I've never heard anything like it in all the NASCAR races I've ever covered. I mean, we know he's a crowd favorite, but this was something special. And even Chase, when he got out of the car and was talking about it in his TV interview with TNT, made the point that, you know, this is a moment that he's not going to forget, and reiterated that in his media conference afterwards. Just one of those things that if you weren't there, I can't quite accurately put it into words or paint you a picture of exactly what that felt like. But it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, standing on the pit lane watching it. It was unbelievable. I mean, more than a year that he's been out of victory lane, honestly, not really looking like a driver who was going to reach victory lane until this kind of fell in his lap. But at the same time, at least his road course prowess here of late seems to have been coming back. So really good timing where that's concerned. And what you said about the nighttime being the right time at this new Atlanta, we've seen great racing at this racetrack going back to the reconfiguration in 2022. But what we saw under the lights for a scheduled night race, which they had to do because during the day the heat index was about 108 down there, so it really was hot Atlanta. That racing was absolutely spectacular, save for the 25-car pileup on the back straightaway, but that wasn't even necessarily a product of the track itself as it was, just as we see a lot at even Daytona and Talladega these days, just a mistimed bump. And with the smaller racetrack, a mile less racetrack and a narrower racetrack, a mistimed, you have nowhere to go. So it didn't surprise me that once it started that wreck was as big as it was. But regardless, the product itself, the extra grip from being under the lights, I feel like let drivers feel brave enough to make moves. You didn't necessarily always have to have help to make those moves. We saw some people, if they had a good enough car, could make moves on their own. It was, I almost felt like a early to mid 2000s super speedway race was kind of the feel that I got out of it, truthfully, just from the fact that it was as much about handling as it was about having friends, which is a great sign, I think, for this Atlanta. I was one of the skeptics when this first reconfiguration was done. I really was. I was among the camp that didn't think we needed another super speedway. I really wasn't sure what we were going to get out of it, but the aging of the pavement has happened quicker than I expected, quicker than a lot of the drivers expected, and it has turned into a tremendous show. I would argue if that's not race of the year so far, it's absolutely in the running for race of the year, and we're only halfway done.
Well, I would agree with that. And I think coming off of Mexico, which to me, I mean, it was okay, but I didn't think it was great. And it certainly wasn't a sellout, though I thought the crowd was fairly strong. I thought coming off of Mexico, Atlanta just absolutely put NASCAR Cup back where it needed to be. Like that, it made it even more glaring, the difference. And I thought the race was phenomenal, honestly. And I loved the idea of reconfiguring Atlanta because I was tired of Kevin Harvick winning every Atlanta race. And so it's, I just thought, well, okay, this could be pretty cool. And, you see the pileup. It's just, it was a mess, but that's what happens.
That was the first pileup.
Yeah, that wasn't even the big one. But I think when you're running in packs, Jacob, I mean, this is what you get. And super speedway racing is pack racing. And these drivers think they have to push each other. And this is where the trouble begins because somebody pushes on the wrong side of the bumper or moves just a little bit and turns a car. And then, you got mayhem. And that's just what we get. But I thought that race was crazy good. And I wish we could do Atlanta 3 or 4 times, to be honest, but I'm not saying I think we should reconfigure all the other tracks to look like it.
No, let's not. There have already been nasty rumors going around that there is one more Atlanta-esque reconfiguration on the table. NASCAR swears up and down it's not any of their tracks. The process of elimination leads us down the road of Las Vegas with a question mark in air quotes. And I hope not, just because, quite frankly, Kansas and Las Vegas put on some of the better mile-and-a-half intermediate racing that we see on the schedule these days. And I don't think, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is my 2 cents to that. I think Atlanta, as it was getting to the point where it wasn't necessarily broke, but it was really in a place where it wasn't going to get any better. And from a safety standpoint, that pavement was just getting too old. It had to be done something. And, they just hit on a diamond in the rough. Yeah. And like you said, I don't want to see this happen to every intermediate racetrack. We don't need to be super speedway racing every week.
No.
But I think what we found at this particular racetrack is a great balance between intermediate style racing and pack racing, where it's not 3x3 all night, but at the same time, it's not follow the leader, wait for somebody's tires to wear out, or that's the only way you're going to pass them racing. I think we've hit on a really, really good balance here, and I'm really pleased with what I saw.
Here's a thought, and probably an unpopular opinion. If you want to reconfigure another mile and a half, how about we reconfigure Chicagoland, bring that back, and kill this street race thing?
Well, so let's back up here for a minute because I would love to see Chicagoland back, but at the same time, I do understand from a business perspective where Ben Kennedy, where NASCAR is coming from in terms of street racing in the sport. I think it does have a place. And really, I think what we're going to see next year now, we've proven we can bring NASCAR racing pretty much anywhere, and I think that is the overarching point. This allows us to get the sport into markets that are going to be high market share, going to be important for growing the sport, and at the same time, proving that we can put on good racing. I mean, say what you will about whether you like street racing or don't like street racing. The Chicago street race in its two prior editions has both had some really spectacular moments. I'm not going to sit here and profess that every lap of both races was great. We all know that's almost impossible to do. But that being said, there's memorable moments from both of the prior races. I feel like this year's race has the potential to do that again, in part because there is a growing level of borderline desperation for drivers who need to win one of these next 8 or 9 races to get into the Cup Series postseason. And as the old saying goes, desperate times call for desperate measures. And I think this course does open up to potential desperate measures. It just, the way it's set up, it's narrow, it's tight. There's only a couple passing zones. You do what you got to do. We saw that in Alex Bowman's win a year ago. We saw Tyler Reddick trying to do everything he had to do, push the limit a little too far, and it got away from him on the last lap. To me, that's the enduring image so far of this Chicago street race and this course, is that the margin for error is very, very slim. It's very much you can push it, but boy, you better be careful if you push it, because if you step over that line even a fraction of an inch, your day could be over. And to me, that technicality as a race fan is what makes this fun, because I don't know that you ever quite get the same course twice, given that, every year the state of the pavement we've come back is a little bit different. And, regardless if the layout is the same, you're not necessarily going to be able to set every last little inch of this the same every time you go there. It's just not realistic to think when you're building a temporary course. So to me, there's a lot of variables that make this fun. Maybe it's not a traditionalist's idea of fun, but for me, it's a different kind of fun.
I'm gonna rebut to that, but I'm gonna wait until after the break in order to do it, just because I can. We'll be back with more with Jacob Seelman right after this.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com. Welcome back to the show, and Jacob Seelman is my co-host for tonight, and we're talking NASCAR at the moment. And Jacob, before the break, just tried to justify the Chicago street course race in a way that I actually think was far better than anything I've heard anywhere else, including NASCAR themselves, as to why we should keep doing this.
Thank you.
However, here's my deal. Now they're talking about San Diego, and I've heard noises about Philadelphia. Okay, here's what I don't want. I don't want the NASCAR Cup Series racing to turn into fendered Formula One. I don't think that the traditional fan base, as you appropriately mentioned, and I'm part of that, okay, as are you.
I am too.
The younger end of it. But I don't think the traditional fan base is really that into street racing, to be honest. I think it's fine. So if they want to go to San Diego, Chicago's out. Do one a year. Yep. Because here's the problem. As you say, Ben Kennedy feels like NASCAR can go anywhere now. But here's my question. Should it go anywhere? Okay, Philadelphia, why? We have Pocono. Okay, we have Richmond not far. You put the trucks at Lime Rock and they set an attendance record. But that's and it's close to New York City. I just don't think we need to be turning our sport into a sport that's mostly or even close to mostly road racing. I think NASCAR is an oval track series. It should stay that way. I think the way Ben Kennedy is going, I feel like they're starting to get to a point where they're getting dangerously close to what I think has ruined IndyCar to a great degree in terms of the fan popularity in the country, and that is too many road and street courses and not enough high-speed ovals, which is what NASCAR and IndyCar both were built on. What do you say to that?
Oh, don't even get me started on the IndyCar conversation. I'm gonna need a full rant to really get into that. But I will say on the NASCAR side, at least from what I know from keeping my ear to the ground in the garage and kind of listening to some of the people that I have ties to inside, that I don't think we are going to see more than one street race a year. I think NASCAR understands that is a kind of a one-hit wonder on the schedule, where if you do more of it, that it is going to do more harm than good. But I also think they see the value in every couple of years being able to take the sport to different markets, to major market share locations. I've seen and heard the rumblings about Philadelphia. We got to remember, Pennsylvania is a very, very large state. You know this. You have to go through Pennsylvania to get to New York anytime you want to go home. So I don't think if we were to do a Philadelphia street race at some point, I don't think that would have any bearing on a lack of audience for the Pocono race by any means. I mean, those are two completely separate markets within the state of Pennsylvania. I've heard talk about New York City. I have no idea how you would pull that off in the city itself, because you'd basically be shutting down NYC for about 2 weeks, which is not realistic given the amount of business that's there. So I almost think something, Manhattan, Staten Island, somewhere that's not directly in the city, but still would be feasible to build a street course. So that's something that they're going to have to do a lot of thinking about if that ever is going to be a reality. But as far as San Diego goes, which is what Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic dropped several weeks ago, that it looks like is on the table starting next year, I understand why that needs to happen, at least in the short term, because we have got to get back as a sport into the Southern California market. That's non-negotiable. I think we do. I think there's a very large part of your West Coast fan base, and you talk about Pennsylvania being a big state. California is absolutely massive, and of course, I don't think it's just as feasible as people would say. Oh, they can go north to Sonoma. That's one heck of a haul if you're down in the southern end of California to go all the way multiple hours north to wine country just to watch just to watch one race a year. I think we do need that market. I think San Diego is a very interesting market to be able to explore in that area. Obviously we haven't gotten confirmation yet, but I do think that West Coast audience is very, very important from a Cup Series standpoint, because you've got the Phoenix market, you've got Las Vegas, you've got Northern California, but Southern California is where a bulk of that state's population is really centralized. And, there's a rabid portion out there that really wants to see the sport back there. I wish it would be. I wish we could get the short track construction done that was talked about before the business market and the building market went to crap out there. I unfortunately don't know how realistic that's going to be anymore.
Well,
but
here's the problem, Jacob,
we'll
and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm gonna. Okay, you just hit on my button. We had Auto Club, okay, and we chose to reconstruct it, okay, under the guise that it was going to come back as a short track, which to me, it would be, I mean, now, of course, the Cup Series half the time puts on crappy shows on short tracks, but
that's a car problem.
That's a car problem. It's a whole other discussion. But see, to me, that was the fix right there, is just go ahead with the reconstruction. I think NASCAR jumped the gun in that whole thing, and the way that they went about it, I think they got, obviously do a good job of due diligence before they tore it all apart and sold land. Right. They're going to spend $1 million plus constructing a street course in San Diego every year just to take it down again. So I don't know how, I don't disagree necessarily with getting into that market. I just think NASCAR has the way to do it, and they can blame prices for construction and whatever. And I do know California and the politics. It's kind of like New York City and the politics. I can't imagine, what all that red tape and everything would be. But I really do wonder. It would be very interesting to see the street course in San Diego and see what kind of turnout we get. Because I know that the turnout, now granted we have weather issues and whatever, but the turnout in the football stadium, the last year or two was definitely not what it was the first year. So I don't know. I guess I'm more skeptical than you are about how many people out there actually would show up to a street race, but maybe because it's a street race, it would be a California kind of event. So I guess I'm open to the idea.
I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, and granted, I know it's a different series, but it's still a lot of the same area, similar area. I mean, look what Long Beach does for Southern California every year. And that arguably is, I'm going to get yelled at by IndyCar people here. I'm sorry. But that arguably is a much worse show than a potential NASCAR street race every year. And yet they still pack that place. So I see no reason why a street race in Southern California can't be successful. It's just a matter of, will the fans show up? And I think given the rest of how starved they are for any sort of racing in that part of the country these days, I think they will.
See, I would like to see a combination NASCAR, IndyCar, Long Beach show. To me, please, that makes sense.
And NASCAR was exploring that, by the way. That's part of why they were trying to buy the Long Beach Grand Prix, was exactly that reason. And then it didn't happen, and Penske Entertainment bought into it.
I was going to say, somebody didn't want NASCAR to be the owner. That's what happened there. And
that's correct. That's exactly what happened.
I don't think we're going to get the combination show we're talking about. But to me, that makes the most sense. I will be, like I said, I'm open as long as we keep it to one. Okay, if you're either going to Chicago or you're going to San Diego or you're going to Philadelphia. No more than one street course race a year. NASCAR is not a street course racing series. I think they've got bigger things to fix. like the Cup car product than worrying about taking off and doing all this other stuff they want to do. They've got globalization on their mind. You've already got series in other places. I don't think you need to take the Cup series. We certainly don't need to add dates. And I don't think we need to subtract any more oval tracks. Do you?
No, I really don't. Although that being said, I think there is an argument that several tracks on the schedule need to be cut back to one date so that we can then put more ovals, or in one particular case, there is one road course that is not currently on the schedule that needs to be on the schedule, because while I don't know that globalization is the right step, I did see the value in being in the Mexico City market, just like I see the value of a potential Canadian race again, whether that's at Mosport or whether that's at Montreal, which has been the conversation. Good grief, back when it was the Nationwide Series, the what's now Xfinity cars put on absolutely unbelievable road racing products at Gilles Villeneuve. So, I know a lot. We don't want to go too far on the road racing scale. Montreal's the one course right now that I think deserves a look. But, I mean, you've got Chicagoland out there. You've got Kentucky out there. You've got a handful of premier short tracks in this country that actually, one of whom, I'll keep it nameless just because I don't know that they're ready to go down that road of having it talked about. But I know of at least one premier short track in the United States that is on a track to install safer barriers over the next couple of years so that they can try to court a NASCAR National Series race. There are short tracks out there that want this product, that want to be at that level, that we ought to at least be exploring whether it's viable or not. Kern County, I mean, Kevin Harvick's got an ownership stake there, I think is certainly an option. You've got tracks that already run national ARCA Menard Series events, like a Berlin Raceway, like an Elko Speedway. You've got, I get that this is difficult with the fair board, but I mean, good grief, if we could ever figure out a way to make Milwaukee happen, at least for Xfinity and trucks again, please.
Yeah, with IndyCar, please and thank you.
Yeah, there's options out there. We just have to want to explore them. And I'm of the camp absolutely that does not believe a lot of these tracks need to have two dates. There are certain tracks that do, because they routinely sell them out or come darn close. But a lot of these tracks that have two dates that aren't selling them both out, I mean, let's use Michigan from a few weeks ago as a prime example. Ever since they were cut back to one race a year, that's been a virtual sellout with camping out the wazoo every single time that NASCAR has gone there. Yeah. And, I feel like it's a proof of too much of a good thing can hurt you. So, I'm a proponent of there are only a couple tracks a year that really need to have two dates. Daytona, Talladega, although I could even argue for one of those two races to be cut down to a 400-miler. Martinsville.
I was going to say Talladega would be the first one I'd pull.
Really?
Take one date away from Talladega. Where else you going to pull from?
Even when they routinely have about sold Talladega out for years in a row.
Sure, and I love that that the super speedway. You get two kind of throw them up and put them all in a hat and turn the hat over and pick one up on its way to the ground, because those super speedways are so much about luck now and not so much about necessarily skill. It's such a game of chance, but I would take one away from Talladega gladly to get a Montreal out of it. What I wouldn't want to see, though, is to be taking more dates away from a lot of the tracks. Like, take a Richmond away, that's fine. I don't like the idea of taking an oval date generally away for a road course or a street course. You're going to put one of the short track ovals, but then again, fix your product on the short tracks before you do that, right? Really. Okay, I got to get another break in here. Back with more of Jacob Seelman. right after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
For over 50 years, FHS Superior Synthetic Oil has powered high-performance engines with unbeatable protection and speed. Whether it's drag racing, go-karts, sprint cars, stock cars, or your daily driver, FHS stands for high speed and delivers every time. Their advanced synthetic oils boost your engine's responsiveness, acceleration, and efficiency, giving you the winning edge on every lap. Visit FHSoil.com today to find the right products for your engine. FHSoil.com.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show. Jacob Seelman is my co-host from Raceface Digital, and Jacob, a longtime media personality in the sport. We've worked together off and on for years, and of course, Jacob has family that have owned NASCAR teams and have run things like super modifieds and such. So very knowledgeable. I can't call. I guess he's still a young man to me, but I can't call him young anymore. You're in your mid to late 20s now.
Try early 30s. I turned 31 in January. Yeah. No, hey, how do you think I feel?
That just makes me a relic. Okay, so back on topic here. Actually, we're going to switch topics.
I wasn't going to say it.
That's all right. I don't mind. Daniel Suarez is in the news, and not just for winning at his home track in Mexico, in his home country. He is out of Trackhouse for 2026. What do you make of this, Jacob? We got about 10 minutes, about 8 minutes left.
Well, I'm going to be blunt here, and don't get me wrong. I am one of the biggest Daniel Suarez proponents there is. He is one of the greatest people to talk to from a media standpoint in the sport, in my eyes. Just an outstanding human being, but I think the writing was on the wall for this from the moment that Connor Zillett won his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut last fall at Watkins Glen. I kind of thought to myself, oh boy, and I'll be quite frank, that there was one odd man out, and it's the one that doesn't have a ticket to the playoffs right now, and that's Daniel Suarez. And I honestly think that Daniel was going to be the odd man out no matter what. With the increased emphasis on road courses these days, you hired Shane Van Gisbergen if you're Justin Marks for a reason. He proved why at Mexico City. I think he's going to prove why a couple more times before the postseason starts. I mean, he is so good on that style of racetrack that's all. I'm not going to say it's a guaranteed playoff berth every year, but it's a guaranteed shot at a playoff berth every year. And Ross Chastain really is, to me, the long-term future of Trackhouse. He's your star driver in my eyes. Yeah, okay, maybe he doesn't have the bulk of wins to show it right now, but he wins when it matters. I mean, the Coke 600 to me was a brilliant display by Chastain back in May. So, I hate it for Daniel. I really hope he lands on his feet somewhere good. This was a great opportunity for him. I feel like he did the best he could with it. Justin was very complimentary of him. Daniel helped build that team. He was, really the first one that they bet on when that was just getting started. And, to me, that's always going to be part of the Trackhouse story is Daniel Suarez. But, I mean, this was coming. You're not – the way Connor Zilisch has performed in the Xfinity Series as the Trackhouse development driver, you're not going to hold him back, and I don't think there's a reason to hold him back. If you don't get him to the Cup level soon, you're just kind of squandering his talent, I would say.
Well, if you don't get him to the Cup level soon, somebody else will. That's really where
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Connor is a star in the making. Okay, so what on a scale of 0 to 100%, what are the chances you think that the two of them essentially just swap teams?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 50-50 for now, just because I do think Daniel's first priority is to try to find a seat to stay at the Cup level.
Where does he go?
If you get and see, that's the thing. We can say there's no seats open right now, but I think you and I have been around this long enough to know there's usually one domino every silly season that nobody is expecting. So I'm not going to say that this is over in terms of Daniel finding a really solid landing spot in the Cup Series still. But hey, if you got to drop back to Xfinity and your option is Junior Motorsports, that's one heck of a way to go back and have a shot to win a second championship. 100%.
He's 1 for 1 in a Junior Motorsports car. So that's
to answer your question, I'd say 50-50.
I mean, I just can't figure out where he would go. Like, where? Yeah, I think it would take an unexpected domino to fall. We already know Kyle Busch is coming back in 26. Austin Dillon's probably not getting out of the car. You look at the other elite teams. Where does the open seat come from other than an expansion? Or again, you look at maybe somebody like Colleague, but gosh, I mean, maybe poor Ty Dillon gets bumped out again. I mean, that young man just can't seem to keep.
I'll tell you what, Ty Dillon's impressed me more on a Colleague car this year than AJ Allmendinger has.
I agree, but again, so where does Daniel go? Like, where is the seat? So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure he's got something on his mind, or he wouldn't have made the decision unless the decision was made for him. But yeah, I agree with you totally. You cannot. I mean, Connor Zilisch is a rare quality driver. I think Connor is more of a
word
complete
generational
driver.
Is the one that I used.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Road course, oval, short track, big track, even on dirt. Connor can do it all. And he's got a great personality. He's great with sponsors. I just feel like, and I honestly will go this far. Connor Zilisch, because you said one thing earlier that I think is true. Shane Van Gisbergen was brought in to win on road courses, and that's what he does. And that'll get him to the playoffs. I don't see him winning a championship unless he, Connor Zilisch, I think would have the chance next year to go farther in the playoffs than Shane Van Gisbergen. And I think Connor would be one of the few drivers that will give Shane a run for his money on the road and street courses. So,
absolutely.
I think Connor is a far more complete driver right now than Shane.
No question, and that's because Connor has done more oval racing in his young life than what Shane ever has from growing up in Australia and New Zealand. I mean, he was a road racer by trade until he came to the U.S. So, I mean, I would have expected Connor to be a better oval track racer than Shane at this point in their respective careers.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the facts of the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's one of the best road course racers in NASCAR with far less experience on, road and street courses than Shane has. And so that team becomes way more powerful, although Daniel certainly is a good road course racer. But yeah, you can't keep a racehorse like Connor down for very long. You have to bring him up and give him a shot, or somebody steals him. And it'll just be interesting to see where Daniel goes. And on top of that, I feel like the way that the charter system with 3 charters per team and all that, and now you've got this whole business, and we don't have but a minute or two to talk about this, but the legacy Rick Ware thing is really interesting to me. Rick Pucker buying Rick Ware Racing, and now that just kind of muddies the waters for that whole charter system thing between those two teams even more to me.
It's interesting, and real quick, I'll say this: TJ Pucker coming over from Spire to potentially be buying Rick Ware Racing, and the way he talks, he wants to ultimately have that operation be a three-car team. To me, that signals one thing, because right now there's not enough charters floating around. To me, that says that the moves and the extra charters are getting ready to be put into place, that we are going to see either a Dodge return or a fourth OEM coming to the Cup Series soon, like within the next 18 to 24 months soon. That's the only way that operation goes three cars without really, really messing something up for another legacy. I use the term legacy to mean a long-standing team in the sport, and I just don't see that. I think this is a signal that we're going to have a fourth OEM, and those four extra charters are going to come out of the woodwork to help make what TJ wants to make at RWR possible.
So TJ maybe becomes the Dodge or Stellantis or whatever they're calling it.
Whatever it is, Honda.
Whatever it is. But TJ becomes that team, and NASCAR actually adds more charters. That drives the price of the charters, at least temporarily, down a little bit. That would be interesting.
Well, so yes and no. I'm not necessarily saying that RWR would be the team to swap to a different manufacturer, but what I am saying is that NASCAR has four charters in reserve specifically so that a incoming manufacturer doesn't have to poach everything from an existing team.
Okay, that's interesting. And that
was built in when the initial charter system happened.
So what happens if we get two more OEMs?
Then it gets really interesting. And then I think comes the potential, looking at Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing, of, okay, your grandfather rule has been long enough. We're making you play just like the rest of them, and you guys have to back down to three charters apiece.
Oh, boy. I never liked that grandfather rule to begin with, but I did understand it, of course. But I've said for ages that NASCAR, when they implemented that system and let people start leasing and swapping, that they backed themselves into a corner with the number of charters they had. And now I think that's kind of coming to roost here. But interesting stuff. I just feel like, Rick Pucker did not start this and did not buy this team to just be, an also-ran or a 10th place team. He wants to be. No. He wants to win.
TJ Pucker was in with Spire Motorsports and wanted to see that team win, and he wants to do the same with RWR for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, Jacob Seelman, Raceface Digital. Go check him out. He does great work, and thanks for being on the show. Hopefully we'll see more of you going forward.
Absolutely. Raceface.tv for all that work that you just mentioned, by the way.
There you go. Raceface.tv, where you can check out all of Jacob's handiwork, and that will do it for the show. This was a really quick show. Of course, we are at The Wheel Nation on Facebook and Instagram. I am Tom Baker TV on both Instagram and LinkedIn. SteeringWheelNation.com is our hub. And, of course, you can find our streaming channel on the PowerTube TV platform as well. Just go to watchpowertubetv.com, then hit watch, and then hit podcasts, and look for Steering Wheel Nation. Until next time, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching. So long.